So with the Oscars being, what, a good, 6 months away now, I guess it's finally time to start talking about contenders. We really don't know if the Oscars are still going to be when they say they are, and we don't know if half of the films that are supposed to be contenders for the Academy Awards are even going to come out at the time that they think they're going to. But there is one thing that we can tell for sure, and it's when certain films are going to come out, because a lot of them are just releasing on streaming services with limited releases in theaters, which has been going pretty well for Netflix, or so it seems. And you may notice that the title of this video is primarily talking about Netflix as a streaming service when it comes to the 2021 Academy Awards, because there are obviously a lot of streaming services working hard right now. You get Disney Plus pumping out what they're trying to make, a lot of blockbusters with Mulan and Soul. You've had Hulu with a couple of gems like Palm Springs, which could be an interesting fight for a screenplay position, but I really don't think that that's going to happen. Amazon Prime has been a little bit slow, but with Borat 2, they might be looking to make something happen with that, considering the first one was up for original screenplay at the Oscars. You had Sacha Baron Cohen winning the Golden Globe for the first one. With Apple TV Plus, they just released a new Sofia Coppola movie, which is her reuniting with Bill Murray, which they might try to do something interesting with, considering his snub for Lost in Translation. There's a lot going on with streaming services right now, but the number one that has a fucking shit ton of contenders pushing forward right now is Netflix. And Netflix, if you look close, hard enough, you can tell Netflix is gunning to be the first streaming service to win Best Picture. They've come very close. I think Roma was very close, but they just missed out on it. And I think that they're really going to fight hard for it this year, and it's going to be a hard fight because there's some really strong contenders right now, and we'll talk about Nomadland a little bit in this video as well, despite the fact that it's not a Netflix film, but it's one that needs to be addressed because it's an immensely strong contender right now. But I just kind of want to run through almost the slate of Netflix films that we're going to be seeing in the next couple of months and how important it is to keep your eye on that slate, because I think Netflix is going to be campaigning harder than they ever have before, let alone with COVID aside, but you've also just got so much talent behind and in front of the camera of these films. So Netflix is a monster to be keeping your eye on right now, especially films that they've already released, and we're going to talk about those as well. I think the easiest and most blatant to talk about has to be Mank, which is David Fincher's film. He's a director who takes his time when he works on projects, and he very rarely comes out with films, obviously. This is his first feature film in about 6 years. He's been working on Mindhunter for Netflix for a long time. And with this film, you can tell he was given a really strong amount of creative control, but from what I can tell, it looks to be his best chance at garnering a shit ton of Oscar attention. It's a biopic about an old Hollywood screenwriter. I can't possibly think of something that the Academy will love more. Especially the story of Herman Mankiewicz and the writing of Citizen Kane, which, in and of itself, is an interesting and historical story when it comes to the Academy Awards itself, and it'll be cool to see if that touches on it. But Fincher is always on that list of best directors who have never won an Oscar. In fact, he's only been nominated twice. Nominated for Benjamin Button, which is super weird, and Social Network. His last film, Gone Girl, was one that was talked about a lot as going heavily underseen at the Academy Awards, with him not being nominated, with it not being nominated for picture, Gillian Flynn not being nominated for screenplay, and the only nomination coming out of that film being Rosamund Pike for Best Leading Actress. And it was highly regarded as being a snubbed film, so I think that Netflix would be crazy to not campaign the hell out of Mank, and I think they're going to do so. Not only do you have a lot of technical setups for that, you've got cinematography, production design, costume design, makeup and hairstyling, all that shit is laid out in front of it. But if you're looking at the big 6 awards, you're looking at a massive Best Picture contender, you're looking at David Fincher being a pretty strong Best Director contender, even though I think that they're definitely going to give a woman Best Director this year, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Gary Oldman coming hot off a win for Darkest Hour. It may seem like a while ago now, but it's really not. He's still, I guarantee you, in the limelight of the Oscars. There's a reason he's doing another performance like this. I think he's feeling the gold a little bit. Amanda Seyfried for a Supporting Actress nomination. Going to be fighting for her first nom, and I think you've got Charles Dance, who's going to be fighting for his first Oscar nom with Supporting Actor, playing the not titular, but the big William Randolph Hearst, the one that I think everyone is kind of interested in seeing that performance of, because that's going to be such a big dynamic. It'll be interesting to see if they campaign the guy playing Orson Welles. I can't think of his name right now, but goddamn, in that trailer, does he sound exactly like Orson Welles. It's kind of freaky. This is definitely the movie that I'm most excited for the rest of the year, and I think holds a ton of possibility. Will it win anything? I don't know. Probably some tech categories, but I think it's got a lot of really strong competition in the acting categories. Like, I don't see Seyfried or Dance having a real shot at winning. If anyone, maybe Gary Oldman, but I think Anthony Hopkins right now is kind of the strong leading contender, but we're going to have to see how that movie, The Father, holds up as time goes on. I know it's been very well regarded. But fighting off Fincher, you're going to have Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, and that movie is such a powerhouse right now, coming off of its TIFF win and its Venice Film Festival Golden Lion win. And a couple of years ago, anyone who knew half anything about the Oscars would tell you to not pay really any attention to a Golden Lion winner, because it had very little in common with what would win or be even successful at the Academy Awards. But once The Shape of Water won the Golden Lion, and then Roma, and then it was Joker, and now you're starting to go, okay, these have been very successful films. One of them taking Best Picture, one of them taking Best Director, one of them taking Leading Actor, so the Golden Lion is no longer anything to shrug off. Plus, Nomadland also winning TIFF, which is historically a really, really big deal. Jojo Rabbit won that last year, and what I saw as an upset was Taika Waititi winning Screenplay over Greta Gerwig. So, and with TIFF also throwing 3 Billboards, its top prize a couple of years ago, giving Frances McDormand her Oscar and Sam Rockwell his Oscar. Frances McDormand headlining this again, coming in for her 3rd Academy Award, which would be a really, really crazy and interesting win. So that's a film that you 100% have to be looking out for in picture, director, and leading actress. It's going to be a huge one, I think. Chloe Zhao was kind of on that list last year of female directors who were heavily snubbed. And I think as a result of that being so controversial last year, and there being such a strong pool of highly campaigned films this year that are directed by women, Nomadland is going to be a huge one. Whether for Zhao, when it came to The Rider, that movie was very under-campaigned, it looked like. I remember it coming out and then hearing nothing about it again until there was the controversy over no women directors. So, should Fox Searchlight campaign correctly, which I really think that they're going to, considering it's a Golden Lion winner and a TIFF winner, that movie's going to be huge, and she is definitely Fincher's #1 competition to go toe-to-toe. But Fincher has the career Oscar kind of argument going for him, whereas Chloe Zhao is a very new filmmaker in Hollywood. He's directed some films that, it astounds me that he's found little success for. Zodiac is one that sticks out in my mind as being shocking that film was not picked up really for any Academy Awards at all. Social Network he lost out for, even though it picked up Screenplay. Gone Girl he lost out big for. So I think Mank is a big one to look out for success-wise, because even when Fincher isn't up for an Oscar himself, typically his movies will get performance nominations. Gone Girl with Rosamund Pike, Social Network, Jesse Eisenberg, nothing for fucking Zodiac, but you had Benjamin Button, I know, got Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett nominations, so Mank is 100% one to watch, just for the hell of seeing it, too. Fuck Oscars for a second. That movie's going to be kick-ass. And a new Fincher movie is an event, and I want each and every one of you fuckers pumped up for that shit. Another big one to talk about, I think, for performances strictly is Hillbilly Elegy. This is the new Ron Howard film, which is coming out, that stars Amy Adams and Glenn Close, and is also going to Netflix. And Ron Howard has not found much success at the Oscars in the past couple of years. Even his documentary about Pavarotti, I don't know what the fuck his name is. I guess 2009 and backwards was really good at getting at least actors nominated for performance categories. Even in A Beautiful Man with Russell Crowe, you'd Cinderella Man with Paul Giamatti. He was very, very good at that. Or Frost Nixon got Frank Langella, and the other one in that movie, who I'm sure I'll edit in because I can't think of his name. He was very, very good at that, and then Rush was kind of where he fell off, with Daniel Bruhl being snubbed as he was up for a lot of the major award ceremonies except for the Oscars. So it's been a long time since he's found success at the Academy Awards, but when you've directed a film that stars Amy Adams and Glenn Close and is going to Netflix, who's going to be campaigning heavily, there is no way the two of these are... There's just no fucking way. These two performances are not up for Oscar nominations, if not strong wins. You've got two of the most hard-fought Oscar nominees in the last 20 years of Academy Awards. Amy Adams has found her 6th nomination in Vice. What should have been her 7th, as many still continue to fight for that leading actress spot that she was snubbed out of for Arrival. And Glenn Close is on her 7th with The Wife, where she was just barely upset at the end by Olivia Colman, who everybody thought that Glenn Close was taking that year's Oscar. Now, what's great is that Glenn Close is up against Olivia Colman again for The Father. And Olivia Colman is in a much different performance than she was in The Favorite. But I definitely think this year might lean it towards Glenn Close. Olivia Colman was a big upset, but that was a great upset. And I think that this year will finally be the one that gets Glenn Close her career Oscar. Her 8th nomination should be the one to do it. Plus, we're looking at a very similar situation to what we saw with Colin Firth and Jeff Bridges back in, I think it was 2009, 2010, where Jeff Bridges won for Crazy Heart, beating out Colin Firth for A Serious Man, and then the next year was when Colin Firth won for The King's Speech, beating Jeff Bridges for True Grit. And people argue whether those should be swapped around or not, but no matter what you argue, I think that the two of them winning definitely had a lot to do with bouncing off of each other as competing and being the top two in both of those years. Same thing is probably going to come around for leading actress this year when it comes to Glenn Close and Olivia Colman, and I think it'll be Glenn Close's to take. So this film is a big one to look for. I don't know if they'll give it to Amy Adams yet. I think they might keep making her fight. It's going to be interesting to see how that supporting actress category floods out. I'm looking forward to seeing that category. How hard this film will campaign or even do in other categories is a very big question mark. You kind of can't deny that Ron Howard has fallen off a little bit in his filmmaking quality. His last few feature films have been less than par, but it's going to be interesting to see if this film is A, strong, or B, how it does in other categories. But I think 100% Close and Adams will both show up in those categories, if not wins. We're going to have to take a look at that when we get a little closer and see. I want to see the film at least before I get into that. One that I just posted a video about, so I won't talk about too much, is the trial of the Chicago 7, which is a big one. I think that's going to be a huge performance pusher, just like Sorkin always does. That's an ensemble cast. An ensemble cast like to propel several people in a supporting actor category. Right now it's looking like Mark Rylance and Yahya Abdul-Mateen are the two that are front running. I even think that Mark Rylance could get upset at the very last second by Frank Langella. He strikes me as one of those sleeper performances that's going to creep up at the very last second when we don't expect it. Just remember that I said that. But I think Yahya Abdul-Mateen is definitely a shoo-in for a nomination. The Oscars love up-and-coming actors who have had a couple of really, really strong years. You know, whether you like Aquaman or not, he starts out kind of in mainstream Hollywood as this major player in this massive blockbuster, and then he finds himself in Watchmen, which he wins an Emmy for, which is crazy to compute, and now he's in this biopic and very much puts on a scene-stealing performance. People will argue that his lack of screen time hurts him. I think a lack of screen time only supports a supporting actor nomination in certain circumstances, and this is definitely that circumstance where, though he's only in half the film, when you think back to the film, you remember all of those scenes that he's in. I think his limited screen time is definitely going to support him into that category. I know they're talking about campaigning Sacha Baron Cohen and leading actor. We'll see how that goes, but I think that will also be successful considering, again, the Oscars love seeing a comedically known or even like any kind of other genre known actor moving into drama, hard drama, especially doing Sorkin dialogue in a year where he's also, just on Borat 2. I think the Academy voters are really going to love to see that 90-degree turn in the character that he's playing and how successful that film has been. Definitely a screenplay nomination for that movie. People are talking about Sorkin for a director nomination. I wouldn't be surprised. It would be one of those that they would hand out, I think, as an award for Sorkin for being just Aaron Sorkin. I don't even think it would, I definitely wouldn't be deserved in my opinion, but I don't know. I think that that's still a very big question mark, and I think that he could miss out on a director nomination because there's a lot of really strong director contention right now. Again, like I said, they're going to want to fit as many female directors as they can in there with a year that has a big pool of really strong films directed by really strong women directors. Regina King is big talks right now for One Night in Miami, which was really successful at TIFF. It was the runner-up at TIFF. How that's being distributed is also kind of iffy, and that's the one reason I'm not mentioning that film yet, because it's set for a Christmas release theatrically, and we'll see how that goes. I'm sure they'll stick to it, but hopefully if they campaign that film right, you got Regina King coming off of a supporting actress win for Beale Street, so I think that they'll want to campaign her pretty heavily because she would be an interesting fit in director. They like it when performers go into directing, hence like a Bradley Cooper, although I'm now realizing that that's a bad example because Bradley Cooper got fucked out of his director slot. So one way or another, though, I think Regina King is a big one to look for. I think that part of me thinks they'll want to leave that Sorkin slot open, even for like a Spike Lee, which is another film to talk about, Da 5 Bloods. That's an early one, and that was kind of when everyone thought that the Academy Awards might still be in a normal position. We didn't know where everything was going to go. If Netflix is smart, I think they'll at least campaign Da 5 Bloods a little bit. Whether Spike Lee will squeeze in there, I don't know. I think the main thing to look for in that film is Delroy Lindo's lead performance. I would be shocked if he didn't get in there. He's been very much a character actor his entire career. You won't see him like spearheading a film very much, but in this movie, he is by far the standout. I saw that movie, I think, back in May, and I can't say I remember as much from it as I'd like to, but my God, I remember his performance. Those standalone shots where he would move through the jungle and he would just talk straight to the camera struck me as some of the best performance work I've seen this year. So I would be pretty shocked if they don't campaign Lindo pretty heavily. I think he has a chance of being really, really successful at this year's Academy Awards. Whether he wins or not is definitely a toss-up, but I think he could be in that top 3 contention as someone who spearheads one of those films that, like, how those performances do, where it's kind of just set as a performance in that film and the rest of the film kind of isn't present at the Oscars. Sometimes those can be even more successful, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays out. I'm looking forward to that film's campaign, really. The next film to talk about is definitely, I'm going to make sure I'm pronouncing this correctly, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Now, this is an interesting film because George C. Wolfe, who directed it, is not super well known right now. He just came out off a pretty decent television limited series, I think. Perhaps it was a TV movie, I'm not entirely sure. But this is obviously being talked about very heavily, not only because Viola Davis is up for a very strong leading actress nomination, which I think she'll definitely pick up, but you've also got Chadwick Boseman, who very suddenly and surprisingly passed away earlier this year. I know that recently they confirmed he will be pining in terms of campaign for a supporting actor slot. Viola Davis has talked very highly of his performance in the supporting actor category. I think that'll be a very difficult one to ignore. I think they'll definitely campaign him harder for that than they will for Da 5 Bloods. He's just not the standout performance in Da 5 Bloods, and I think they're smart enough to understand that. I'm sure his dynamic with Viola Davis works well enough for it to be the two of them that are nominated. They're the two big stars of that film. It's also adapted from an August Wilson play, as was Fences when that released back in 2016, and that film was obviously very successful at the Academy Awards. That was a posthumous nomination for August Wilson. It would be again if that film is up for screenplay. You'd have Viola Davis up in leading actress, Chadwick Boseman in supporting, probably the movie in Best Picture as well. Again, Fences was very successful. Viola Davis picked up her first Academy Award as a result of that film. You had Denzel Washington in leading actor. It was in picture. It was all over the place. So that's another one to look out for really heavily. There were, as the years have progressed, there's always been a lot of talks about certain posthumous nominations. I remember very early in the season, I think it was 2015, there was a lot of talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman getting a posthumous nomination for A Most Wanted Man. I think this is much different than that, and I think you're talking about a very highly celebrated actor as of the last couple of years who crept up and made himself a name amongst every community and has been kind of almost like a beacon of hope in really, really troubling times, and for him to suddenly pass away has been very shocking and a huge moment in the film world, and I would be shocked if he's not met with an Academy Award nomination this year. We'll see about a win. I don't know how that category is going to go just yet, but I think it would be entirely possible for him to pick up a win based on everything that's going on. Hopefully the film is great. I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. I remember seeing stills a while back and wondering how successful that would be, but I think all things considered, Netflix is going to pool a lot of resources into that film. But that's it for the Netflix contenders that I want to talk about as of now. I'm definitely going to be talking about some more contenders moving forward because there's a lot more. People are talking about Minari, which is the A24 film with Steven Yeun. And again, I know I didn't talk about Nomadland that much, so I'm definitely going to be getting to those as I'm moving along with this season. But let me know what you guys think. I think this is going to be a huge year for Netflix. I'm really excited to follow their patterns of campaigning and the release of films, because we know that those are going to be pretty consistent with their release dates. So we'll see what happens with everything COVID-wise, if they'll be able to put on Academy Awards in April or whatever the fuck the planned date is anymore. I don't even know anymore. But let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. I love you all. I'll see you all next time.